So today we're talking about the harder factoring problems. It's going to be on the sheet. It'll be called worksheets B and C. But basically it's factoring where it gets hard. How does it get hard? It looks something like this. Would everybody please write that one down? Now, is this one doable? Remember, if you can't factor it at all, it's called prime. I want you to give this one a shot and see if you can factor it. Okay, I hope you realize that you should be absolutely positive that this one, works or doesn't work? Works. How can you know for sure that you're right on a math problem? You can check it. How do you check it? By multiplying it back out. And if you multiply this back out right, first we'll make 2x squared. Outside and inside make 2x plus 1x makes 3x. That's the key right there. This part and this part making this part, that's the key, because nobody messes up this. 1 times 1 makes 1. That's easy. But people mess up the middle term. Okay, so how do you decide which numbers to use? So if I back up one notch here, there was really not too many choices. To begin with, do you get that I have to use 2x and x to make 2x squared? Right. Then what I need to find now is something that multiplies to 1. Now, a lot of kids say, well, doesn't it have to add to 3? Not really. Not when it's this kind of problem where there's a number in front. But it does have to multiply to 1. So there's only one way to do that, 1 times 1. I know that has to be. 1 times 1 makes 1. And then the last thing is just make sure it works, because not everything that seems like it's going to work will actually work. So you check it by doing outside and inside. And, oh, by the way, the signs, since they're all positives in the problem, they're all positives. All right, so let's do another one that's a little more of a challenge, and this one will factor. 2x squared minus 3x minus 5. 2x squared minus 3x minus 5. 2 sets of parentheses. It'll work. But what if nothing will work? You'd say prime. Just like if you take a number like 17 and you can't figure out a way to make two things multiply to 17, then 17 is prime. If this thing, there's no way to make two things multiply to be it, then it's prime. Okay, so I know you started with 2x and x, because we just had that one, so you'd for sure be able to do that. Next, you're probably smart enough to know that the only way to make a 5 is 1 times 5. Now, where does the 1 and where does the 5 go, though? You could do it this way, 1 and 5, or you could do it this way, 5 and 1. And then there's another little factor, the pluses and minus signs. You could have a plus here and a minus here. You could have a minus here and a plus here. One of those combos will work. Who has found it? A lot of you. You just say, Mr. B. 2x minus 5 and x plus 1. And I like these because you're pretty confident when you're done that you're right, because you can check them. Outside and inside makes a total of negative 5, and positive 2 makes negative 3x. And there it is. So yes. Okay, raise your hand if you feel confident on that one. You get how we did that. Okay, good. Yes. Good question. The question was how do you know whether the 2 goes on the inside or the outside? I'm going to give you another problem that's a lot like this one, where the 2 would have been on the outside. If I had this, 4x squared minus 6x minus 10, that's the kind where the 2 would be on the outside. I want everybody to take a look at that. Because do you get that there's a 2 that goes into everything? If there's a 2 that goes into everything, you can take that 2 out of here and here and here and put it on the outside and see what you have left. That's still factoring. It's not factoring the way we usually want it, where you have 2 parentheses, but it's still getting the 2 out. Then we'd have the same problem we had 2 seconds ago, and then you could factor that part with 2 parentheses. Did I do something wrong here? Okay, sorry, there we go. Let me check, double check it. That times that should make that. That times that should make that, and it does, and that times, there we go. Now I did it right. Okay, went too fast. And then this next part will be 2x and x, and then this is the exact same problem as last. Only one way to make a 5, and it's 5 and a 1, and then one has to be positive, one has to be negative. I think we went that way, and there we go. Okay, so this is just harder factoring problems. All right. Then you really do want to check these. Not that you have to do this every single time, but I encourage you to, because it's the way to make sure you did it right. And so you'd multiply it back out, and the way you do that is you'd multiply this back out, and then take whatever you get and times everything by 2. You get how this part has to go first? And then after that, you're done with that, then you multiply everything by 2. All right. Another kind that's really cool and comes up a ton this year and in pre-calc, this thing called difference of squares. Do you get how there's no middle term here? There's normally like a 2x or something in the middle, but there's nothing in the middle. So then this kind, you just set up 2 parentheses, and how do I have to start? Yes? And x and x, and then take a guess. What do I have to do so that I won't have any middle term? Yes? Yep, plus 4 and minus 4, because then the outside and the inside will cancel each other, and there'll be no middle term. You get that? So then the final answer is this. I have factored it, and it is the square root of 16 goes here, and the square root of x squared went here and here. The square roots, and one's plus and one's minus. So let's see, I bet you got that. Let's see if you can handle this. I'll make them harder in a second, but I'll make sure you're getting it first. Tell me what that would be. On your remarks app, just write down the answer quick, and then I'm going to ask you to show it to me. I'm going to ask you to billboard it up for me so I can see. Yeah, you're really getting it. This should be quick and easy. Good. Yep. 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 Good. Good. Oh, there it is. Yep. Zoom in next time. Yep. 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 So dim I can't see it. Yep. Yep. The number's wrong. The concept's right. Good. I can't read it. Look at what you're showing me. Good. Yup. Okay. And yes, good. So this one was x plus 9 and x minus 9. Okay. Now, what if I had made this a little more complicated by multiplying both parts by 2? And I said it was 2x squared, and if I double 81, it's going to be 162. You see how that looks way more complicated? But all you'd have to do is notice that 2 goes into both of them. Take the 2 out, and then you'd have x squared minus, and then you'd take half of that, and that would be 81, and then you get the same problem you had last time. 2 parentheses x plus 9x minus 9. So the point is, if you have really ugly numbers, look for something that factors out, and that's called the GCF. This number here that comes out to the front, greatest common factor. All right, so you can take something out of everything, makes us a really wicked looking problem. All of a sudden, as tame as a little puppy. All right, so for instance, let's say I had this one, 14x squared plus 22 minus 12. 14x squared plus 22x minus 12. Factor out something, and then this problem will be significantly easier. Mr. LD, what comes out of everything? Three does not go into 14. Something simpler than that. 2 goes in everything. So we go, 2 comes out, and now tell me what I have left. Perfect. And I bet you that will factor. It's a tough one, but parentheses, parentheses. Give it a shot. I want to see who in here could figure this one. How many of you know how to start? Raise your hand if you know how to start. Okay, good. Tell me, back corner. How do I start? 7x and x. Perfect. So that's a start. What's the next step that I can for sure start thinking about? Same person, go ahead. What multiplies to negative 6? So it could be like 3 and 2, but one's got to be negative. It could be like 6 and 1, but one's going to be negative. You found it. Good. Don't say it. So we now know it works because one of the kids has found it. Try it. Keep playing with it. Playing with the numbers. It's just guess and check. Do you get that one has to be positive and one has to be negative? All right, so I'm going to put a positive here and a negative here. Am I positive that that's right? No. But I'm just going to kind of take the start with that. Then I'm going to think about it and say, I want a fairly big answer of 11x. But if I put a 6 here and a 1 here, that's going to be way too big. 7 times 6 is 42. Okay, so that won't work. Can't be a 6 there. Okay, so that's good. I know it can't be a 6 there. So then I'd probably put in the 6 here once and see if that works. Then try that. Does that actually work? Outside, inside makes 7x. No, negative 7x and positive. That makes negative 1x. Nope. So now it can't be 6 and it can't be 1. All right. Unless the positive and negatives can reverse around and make it work, but I don't think it would. So who's got it now? We've got a bunch of people. You were first. What'd you think? Minus 3 here. And plus 2 there. Raise your hand if you had the same thing as her. Awesome. And then how do I know I'm right? Because I go outside and inside, and the outside makes 14, the inside makes minus 3, makes a total of 11. It's working. All right, and then double check the very last just to make sure you didn't really make a dumb mistake. Negative 3 times 2 makes negative 6. Yay. All right. Then how do I be sure I'm right for the whole thing? If my life depended on it, I would multiply this whole thing out just to make sure it came out to this. Then I would take everything and times it by 2 and make sure it really came out to that. So basically that's checking your answer. All right, so here's what I want you to do for today. I think we got more problems than we need on the worksheet. You're going to find the worksheet called Factoring Worksheet B. There's lots of questions, but they're in sets of like 3. So like problem number 7 has a part A and a B and a C. You may skip problem 7, parts A, B, and C, and 11. Those are considered lucky numbers in Las Vegas, 7 and 11. So find problem 7, you may skip those 3, and problem 11, and you may skip those 3. It's worksheet B, please. And there's one more that kind of annoys me, and I'm going to have you skip it because the wording is confusing. So scroll back to the middle of the worksheet. It's number 4. Problem number 4, it's like just the wording is confusing. It's not super hard. It's just I think that the teacher meant one thing and said a different thing. So skip problem number 4 and 7 and 11. Now, there's one other kind of, remember those kind that where they don't have a middle term? That's on the next worksheet. And I'm going to ask you to just do 1, 3, 5, and 7. That's 4 problems off the next worksheet, because that's a different kind that isn't on this worksheet. And that's on the next worksheet. It's called Factoring Worksheet C. And again, all I'm asking you to do is 1, 3, 5, and 7. So your assignment is this worksheet, except to skip a bunch. And then the next worksheet, which is worksheet C, doing problems, only problems 1, 3, 5, and 7. Those are easy. You'll be able to do them in 5 minutes. Those are those difference of squares kind where you take the square roots and a plus and a minus. They'll be easy. Yep, so to sum it up, what I'm assigning my classes, the other teachers may be assigning something slightly different, but is worksheet B, all except problems 7 and 11 and 4. And then worksheet C, you're only going to do problems 1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay, and then tomorrow we'll do a review, which is reviewing not just factoring, but all the stuff we've done, like general form. Generally, you just multiply things out. And where do you get the x-intercepts, where they're at y equals 0, and that kind of stuff. We'll review that tomorrow. And then the quiz is Wednesday. And then Thursday, you're going to take a ACT practice test. That one is going to be just like a real ACT test. And those are 60 questions. And it is 60 minutes. Now, technically, your class time is only 55 minutes. So you are only going to have about 55 minutes. You're going to come in and go. Like right the second you come in, you start. And I want you to try hard on this ACT test. But the reality is most kids take this as a junior. So you're obviously younger than them. But frankly, you're about as smart as most of the kids that take this on average because you're accelerated students. And a good score on that test is like 40 out of 60 questions. Okay, and since you're younger than most of the kids that take it, and it's your first time ever taking it, don't be depressed if you only get 30 out of 60 questions, because 40 out of 60 is pretty good. So you're not going to be really good the first time you try it. So I just want you to understand a 30 out of 60 isn't bad. But here's the other thing. After the end of this class, you will have learned everything you need to know except the trig. So therefore, you should be able to get a 52 out of 60, because there's only a few questions you haven't learned yet. By the end of this year, you won't have learned the trig. And frankly, there's not too much more on the ACT that you haven't already learned by this point in the school year. So my point is that if you're smart enough and you've learned everything that every teacher has taught you so far, you should be able to get probably a 50 out of 60. But I won't be surprised at all if there's a lot of kids that get 30 out of 60 your first time. And you're also limited on time a little bit. So I just wanted to prepare you for that so you don't feel like a complete failure when you take this test and you get like half of them right. That's actually pretty good. You're going to want to get into Stanford, you're going to probably want a 35 on the ACT, which means out of 60 questions, you're going to want to get about 58 out of 60 right if you want to get into Stanford. And you can do that. You can do that. You got 2 more years to prepare for this test. And I know everything that's on there. So I can teach you everything you need to know. If you wanted to go to clown college, they only require basically being happy and having a rubbery nose. Clown college, that's just people a lot of times tease about that. Like, if you don't get into whatever you want to go, you might have to go to clown college. I've threatened my children with that for years. If I keep spending money like this on your sports, we're going to have to send you to clown college, that kind of stuff. To get an Air Force Academy, you tend to want around a 29 or a 30 ACT. A perfect score is a 36. And that's really rare. But seriously? Wow. That's too bad. Yeah, it's tough to get a 36. Now, National Merit Scholar is going to be on the PSAT. The PSAT test is different, but on the PSAT test, generally you want to be top 99, 99. Usually the SAT test go by percentages more. So they want you to be at 99th percentile on both math and English. And then you got a shot at National Merit, and that is a really good award.